Hi, Dr. Alina Kolchitsky, Boutique Bodyworks, physical therapy, lifestyle medicine, nutrition, fitness, and more. Today I'm going to make a fall pumpkin soup. It's a very hearty soup and very nutrient dense. We're using pumpkin, and I'm going to talk about the health benefits as we go along, and there's lots of spices. So let's get started. First we're going to start with adding our fat, which, let me lower this so you can see very well, is going to be extra virgin olive oil. As you know, my favorite fat to cook with. So we need just 2 tablespoons. Now know that you can play with this recipe. So if you don't like an ingredient, by all means, don't put it in there. But I'm going to make this almost exactly like I found on Pinterest with some exceptions. So we're going to turn on the heat to low, and we're going to let the, I added habanero pepper, which was not in the recipe. So that's my little addition. I like to give it a bit of kick rather. It requires 1 whole onion, medium sized, chopped. And carrot, just 1, celery. Now I've pre-chopped everything. Has 2 stalks of celery. And of course, you know me, I'm using organic for everything. And one other thing I'm adding that's not in the recipe is parsnip. I happen to have some left over. It was a big parsnip, so it was about half of that big one, which probably amounts to a full small one. If you don't know what parsnip is, it looks like a carrot, except it's a different color. It's this kind of beigey pale color. It is delicious for soups, amongst other things for cooking. I highly recommend you experiment with it if you're not familiar with it. It is a root, so it's going to have a more earthy kind of flavor, but it really rounds out recipes, savory recipes especially. It can be used in desserts. Okay, so we're going to let that simmer until it's translucent. While that's happening, we will mince some garlic. So it calls for 2 cloves of garlic. Just going to use the garlic press, a lot easier. Oh, careful where you shoot that. Aim it. Now garlic and onion, if you've listened to my other videos, know it is so good for you. It's high in sulfur. Sulfur is necessary for methylation. Every single reaction in our body, every single physiological function in our body requires reactions. And so we need sulfur to support our cellular function for every single tissue in our body. So if you have any kind of medical reason why you can't, then of course skip it. Otherwise, use real garlic. Don't use the powder unless you have to. The real garlic, and real onion, same with onion powder. Skip the onion powder, use the real stuff. It's going to give you all kinds of antioxidants, as well as the sulfur, as well as fiber, which will give you all kinds of benefits that powders and pills cannot replicate. Science says. You can hear it sizzle a little bit. I'm trying not to waste, so this is me being obsessive. Now garlic is stinky, and those oils are stinky, so wash your hands well, or everything you touch is going to smell like garlic. So this is one time we are going to stir the pot. Ha. So stir the pot so you get everything to cook evenly. Especially with these root vegetables, you want to make sure that they do pre-cook a little bit. It helps to let all the wonderful things inside them, including the flavors, to release. With carrots, we are better off eating them cooked than raw, lightly cooked, so that Don't overcook because then you will destroy the vitamins, but lightly cooked helps us to release things that allow our body to absorb the vitamins better. Okay, so one of the things it calls for next will be some spices. I have here a teaspoon of coriander seeds. So I need to just kind of crush them a little bit here in my tiny, cute little mortar and pestle. That helps to release, again, the flavors. We're going to be putting all our herbs and spices in next so that they get to bloom as well before we add in our stock. Wow, it's got quite an aromatic smell. Okay, I'm going to turn this down a bit. Now it does call for fresh ginger. That would be best. As I said, fresh is always better than dried, but I don't have any on hand right now, so it calls for quite a bit. 3 teaspoons or a tablespoon of ginger, so I'm going to use just organic powdered ginger. It can get a little bit caked in its container. That's why I'm knocking it on the edge. Try to loosen it up. So we'll stir that in. Wants us to do that for about a minute to give that a chance to bloom before we add the other spices. Wow, I just got a nice waft of ginger up my nose. If there's any germs in me, they're dying right now. Between the garlic, onion, and ginger aromas, watch out, bacteria. Bad bacteria. Okay, next we need our cumin. So I have some ground cumin. Yeah, that's in Spanish, cumino, right? So we need a teaspoon and a half. Again, it doesn't have to be exact. We're not baking a cake, as I always say, or a souffle. It's cooking, not baking. Baking is a science. It needs to be precise with cakes and such. But cooking is an art. It can be various, and you won't be in trouble. Again, you can change up the flavors. So if you want to try other spices instead, go for it. Some Burberry would be great. But I put some habanero, fresh, so that'll give us some spiciness. Okay, so next is the coriander, which we already ground up a little bit. So that was 1 teaspoon. We also need some paprika, or paprika, however you like to say it. Oh, it's a brand new bottle, so I need to open this up. So we need a teaspoon of this as well. It does call for smoked paprika, but I'm just using regular. I'm not really that big a fan of smoky flavors personally. So again, an example where you do what works for you, what you like, because you're the one who has to eat it. You don't have to be a slave to a recipe. Whoa, that's another waft of spice up the nose. Okay, so making sure it's getting kind of cooked, so I'm turning down the heat. I don't want to overcook this vegetable. I need to get a move on here. Okay, the last thing is turmeric. We need just half a teaspoon. And then it does call for half a teaspoon of dried thyme. I actually have some that was fresh, but it's been sitting in my fridge for a while. So it is dried out now. So that'll work. You could put fresh though. When a recipe has fresh herbs, traditionally it's usually added at the end. Dry in the beginning, fresh at the end, to not overcook it. But again, You can experiment, see what you like. Now, herbs and spices, I've said before, they are like the medicine cabinet of your kitchen, and they give us so many health benefits. We don't even know half of what they give us, and what we already know is phenomenal. So many antioxidants. We're talking flavonoids, polyphenols, polyols. These are antioxidants of different kinds that help us to fight and prevent disease. Oh my gosh, this smells so yummy. I'm sure it's baking into my clothing though. You know, when you cook with aromatic spices, it will get into your hair and your clothes. You could put a fan on to help, you know, dissipate that. But I'm not going to do that because I don't want to make too much noise. Okay, so next we are going to add in 1 cup of pumpkin puree. So I have a can here of organic pumpkin puree. This can contains 425 grams and we need 250. So I'm actually going to measure this out. Now, I said I was going to talk about what pumpkin does for us. It's a low-calorie, high-fiber, nutrient-dense food. So we get a lot of benefits from it, and nutrient-wise, without many calories. And just 1 cup has over 200% of the daily requirement for vitamin A. And it's because it's so high in the beta-carotene, which our body converts it into vitamin A. It's the precursor. Yes, our body is able to do that. This is why these antioxidants matter. They're the precursor as well for many vitamins. And so they're absorbed from real foods. If you buy powders, they're not there to the same degree. Or vitamins as well. It's more than just the vitamin A, it's all the other things that go with it, with the plant that helps us absorb it. Okay, next we need coconut milk. So I have here organic coconut milk, and the same thing, we only need 1 cup. So, I will put the rest into glass containers into the fridge to use over the next day or two. Probably bake with the leftover pumpkin and coconut. Make something yummy with almond flour. Make some cookies or something. So don't leave it in the fridge too long because it'll go bad. Okay, so we're incorporating everything here. Now it did also call for some salt. So let's go ahead and do that. I've got my Redmond's salt. Much healthier for you because of the era the salt comes from was pre-plastics. Himalayan salt is our current era, so all the salt being acquired from the Himalayan mountains has been exposed to plastics in our air and water. Don't recommend it. Recommend Redmond's. It's sedimentation over time, creating salts. Back in the Jurassic period, it's harvested from a dried up lake in Utah. So yeah, plastic free, clean. Got lots of minerals. Okay, next we need tomato. It asked for a can of tomatoes. Well, I didn't have any, but I do have some just pure tomato puree. Same thing. So this is about the amount it asked for, which is 400 grams. So we're just going to use that up. And again, I've got my heat on low right now. So we keep things warm and evolve those flavors. And let things, you know, burst out. And it actually tells us to bring this to a simmer again. So let's simmer this, which means you want it to bubble a little bit. Oh, I think I added the coconut milk too early. Sorry, that was supposed to be done at the end. Oh well. So if you do this, add the coconut milk at the end. Oh, this looks so good. It smells amazing. There's just so many layers to the flavors. Next is the vegetable stock. Now, I already have some homemade. Last night, I cooked up a head of broccoli in water, and what's left over is stock. So don't throw out your juice. Okay, it's bubbling. Do you see that? So we turn that down. Now I'm going to add my broccoli juice, which is just vegetable stock. It calls for 3 cups. That was about 2. May have not used the right pot because I'm getting a little bit high and loaded here. Now you can use whatever flavor stock you like. If you're a meat eater, go for it if that's what you want, be it beef or chicken. The recipe does call for vegetable. Honestly, I find vegetable, I've eaten chicken soup before and chicken stock. Vegetable broth just has such a richer flavor. And it's kind of, I don't know, nice, mild, and not harsh. I think I can squeeze in the 3rd cup. Let's see. Oh yeah, just barely. Good thing nothing else is going into this other than some lime juice at the very end. I have been accused of being just like my dad, who always did this. He filled up a pot too high. Always. Never learned. I think it's just because you're overzealous about all the stuff you're going to add in there. In his case. And mine, because I tend to do that too. In my defense, I'd already used the bigger pot for cooking the broccoli last night and put it in the dishwasher. So it's not clean, that's why. Okay, so now let's cover this. We let it bring it to a boil. So I'm turning it up, not all the way high, but to 7. We're going to let that, watch it. Do not walk away and just leave it, because we don't want to leave it boiling. Then you're going to kill everything. High heat is going to destroy all the nutrients. So we're just doing this briefly for the flavors, to cook it and get the flavors and so on to, evolve. And so pumpkin, we were talking about pumpkin. So it has beta carotene, it has alpha carotene, it has cryptoxanthin. Yeah, that's a new one for me. So that's another type of antioxidant. And in addition, turn this off, too bright. There are other antioxidants as well, lutein and also zeaxanthin. So lutein and zeaxanthin are really good for your vision. They actually have been proven to help reduce your risk for age-related macular degeneration and prevent vision loss with aging, which is common but somewhat preventable through diet, like so many things. So eating those nice orange, yellow, red vegetables and fruit give you those antioxidants, the beta carotene, but the others is which for vision, lutein and zeaxanthin. So know that they're good for your eyes. Carrots, when you slice it, looks like an eye. It's good for the eye. It's almost out of boil. And so yes, it helps with vision loss, and because of the fiber and the low calorie content, it helps with weight loss. It helps you to be full, like many vegetables and some fruits. That high fiber helps you to, and low calorie helps you, not in fruits but vegetables, to be filling, to improve satiety so that you eat less and yet give you all the nutrients you need. It is a fruit, technically. So this is a plant that is native to North America, pumpkin, commonly consumed at harvest time, being in the fall, so eaten a lot in fall and winter food dishes. Thus hearty soup, for example. And yes, it has all the health benefits we talked about, but it because of the high fiber content and the low calorie content, it also helps prevent stroke, reduce your risk for heart disease, cardiovascular disease in general, risk for diabetes, and so on. But it is a fruit. It has seeds. So all things that have seeds are technically a fruit, although nutritionally, because it's so low in sugar, it's more like a vegetable in terms of nutrition. So scientifically, fruit, but nutrition-wise, more like a vegetable. Yeah, so enjoy. Pumpkin growing up, I didn't really like it that much. My mom would always turn our pumpkin that we carved out for Halloween into real pumpkin puree. She'd cook it, bake it, and then scrape it out from the skin and cook it down into a puree that mixed with spices and so on, made real pumpkin pie from scratch. I mean, that's literally, you can't get more from scratch than that. It tastes very different if it's real pumpkin and not, I guess pumpkins today too are also, excuse me, genetically modified, so they don't taste the way they did 40 years ago. They're modified to be more sweet, or just to be used for carving and not for eating. And the ones for eating are different, right? So that's becoming more true in our diet in general, in food production. So yeah, back then it tasted pretty wild. It's like the difference between turkey versus chicken, right? Turkey has this wild taste. I'd say that about pumpkin. So I never really liked it growing up, but out of the can it somehow is a lot milder. And with today's genetically modified vegetables and everything that we eat, although this is organic, so hopefully it isn't that genetically modified. Okay, we're going to turn this down, and we let this cook for 20 minutes. So I'm going to set a timer, and then we'll be back. And the last stage would be, after 20 minutes of cooking this on low, is adding your cup of coconut milk, and then just half a lime squeezed in there. And you could also garnish it with some fresh cilantro, which I don't have today. I do have some parsley in the garden though, so it gives me an idea. Oh yes, we forgot the black beans. Okay, so let's add that now. My goodness, I almost forgot the protein. So it calls for a can of black beans, which is almost 2 cups. Gosh, I don't know if my pot is going to handle the volume addition, so I'm going to go really slow. I think it's going to work. You can't see it. Let's see. Yeah, worked. All right, just barely. Oh my goodness. Okay, so a can's worth of black beans, but mine were cooked from dried black beans that I soaked overnight and cooked in my Instant Pot in the pressure cooker function, which is nice and easy. I mean, soak them overnight or just for 4 hours. Rinse them in a colander, put them back in the pot, cover them, just barely cover them with water. Put it in your Instant Pot on pressure cooker function for 20 minutes. That's it. So easy. And way better than a can, because you avoid all the things that are in the lining of cans. Even things that say they are, oh, that was too much. Ah! Okay, so now you know not to do that. When it's super high, don't put the lid on. I have a mess to clean up later. Anyways, I'll be back. We let this simmer for 20 minutes. Okay, so it's been cooking for 20 minutes on the stove on very low heat, and it's really smelling delicious. I have to admit, I have tried it already, and it's so good. So the last step, as I mentioned, is we're going to turn the heat off. We're going to put in the juice of 1 lime. I highly recommend using these. I find with limes, the skin's a little bit tougher, and it's hard to squeeze out all the juice with my fingers. But when I use this, I get a lot of juice out, no problem. Now remember, when you add citrus, this can help us to absorb certain vitamins and minerals. The vitamin C helps with our anion chemicals that are vitamins like our cation chemicals like calcium and iron. Yes. Okay, so, ooh, that smells nice and fresh. Okay, so we're done. And again, you can garnish with some cilantro, it recommends, fresh cilantro, or you could use parsley if you don't have any cilantro, either one. And so this is such a full pot. Now, it's really hot, so I'm going to take it off the heat and let it sit to cool down before putting it in the fridge overnight. I've got a bowl here. I'm going to spoon out one bowl already because that's too full to put the lid on and put back into the fridge or what have you. What you just heard going off was the oven that I preset to 350 degrees Fahrenheit because I decided to go ahead and use up the leftover pumpkin puree and coconut milk now. So I simply put the remainder of both cans in a bowl, added 1/3 cup of pure maple syrup to sweeten it with, and then I added maybe 2 cups of almond flour, 1/4 cup of tapioca flour, and 1/4 cup of arrowroot flour, because those last 2 flours will help things to leaven a bit. And then some baking powder, just a 1/4 teaspoon, and baking soda, and a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and some cinnamon and nutmeg. It tastes delicious raw. And yeah, there's no dairy or egg in here. There's no egg in here, so you can eat it raw. So anyways, I've greased a pan, like a loaf pan, to bake. And I also have this little souffle mini personal size ramekin I filled with the same puree, but also chocolate chips. So we're going to set that cooking time for 20 minutes to take a peek, and if we need more, we need more. Depending on, you'll just put a toothpick in, pull it out. If it comes out clean, it's done. If it comes out with stuff stuck to it, it's not ready. It's still not cooked enough inside. So then put it back in the oven 5 minutes and keep doing that until it's done. In the meantime, let's get back to our soup. So I'm going to ladle out a bowl here. Ah, this thing. Now you could top this up with some pumpkin seeds, keep on theme. And you could also add some queso fresco or parmesan or something like that. Things that add protein and also flavor too. Ooh, that's a lot, isn't it? So I've got lunch tomorrow already made. And let's try it now that it's cooked for 20 minutes. Just a bit of the broth. Oh wow, that's really good. Lots of flavor. Okay, I hope you like it. Again, play with the flavors. You didn't have to put anything spicy like the hot spice like I put in the fresh habanero, just half. And it's pretty spicy hot, so you could skip it all together. Maybe half is too much for you as well. You do to your palate, as I always say. Play with the ingredients. It's soup. You're going to be fine. Maybe you don't like it. Well, eat it. Don't waste it. And next time, change. Make the adjustments. So that's all for now. Check out my other videos. And happy cooking, happy, healthy eating for optimal function.